Welcome to the Veterinary Ledger podcast. This is where we dive into the business of veterinary medicine. So each week we're exploring strategies, insights, stories that are helping practice owners and managers run a thriving, efficient, and profitable clinic without losing sight of the people and the pets that they care for. So whether you're looking for practical tips, expert advice, a fresh perspective on veterinary business, you have come to the right place. So I'm excited today. We've got Justin from our bookkeeping team. He is a whiz. So very happy to have him here. He knows all of the things that I don't about bookkeeping, which is great because today we're going to talk about the changes to the AAHA chart of accounts. So good if you don't know the chart of accounts, good if you do. Justin's here to explain it all. Justin, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself so everyone give yourself some street credit.
Well, thank you for that intro, Megan. Once again, my name is Justin Navarro. I am an accounting project manager here at Granite Peak Veterinary Advisors. I'm currently based out in Salt Lake City, Utah, but a proud Texan at heart, just like Megan. Grew up most of my life in Houston and Dallas, where I actually started my career in veterinary medicine. So started off as a veterinary assistant, licensed veterinary technician, and then also I'm a practice manager. So have been through the weeds, definitely understand everything that, goes into veterinary medicine.
Which is great, right? Because you know where all the bodies lie, where all the things get hidden. So that is fantastic. So, okay, let's just start by overarching for people that don't know the AAHA chart of accounts. What is it and why should practices use it?
So it is essentially the dictionary for the business aspect of veterinary medicine. Oftentimes we kind of exclude the fact that it's still a business at the end of the day. So we need some kind of framework in order to highlight what it is. So to put it simply, it's just a way to be able to measure where your revenue is, also what your expenses are. So it's super important, especially for practice owners, to utilize this information. Once again, it can seem intimidating at first because it is a lot of information, but it is a way for you to actually have a good profit and loss statement at the end of every month so you can make informed decisions.
It is so much work, but there's so many nuggets, right? All of those
Yes.
verbs. Yeah. Oh gosh. I just am glad that there's somebody else that does it, right? And I prefer to do it. I think people should appreciate that. So we've been doing this, I think it came out like early 2000s, right? So now we're 20 years later, made some changes. Why did we need changes?
Well, the world is changing. Veterinary medicine is also ever changing. AI is one big thing, which is actually mentioned in the chart of accounts, which I think is one of the things that is maybe a little bit overlooked, but it's something that's included in there. And I think it's the thing that will kind of gives us a glimpse into the future, but also just with a lot of new products on the market as well. ProHeart's been on the market for quite some time. But now with the introduction of Revecto Quantum, you have something for flea and tick, and not just heartworm preventative that isn't injectable. So that's the biggest thing that people have noticed in the updated AAHA chart of accounts. For me specifically as well, one of the things that I really enjoy about it is that the definitions are a lot more detailed. So even for me, someone that's doing the bookkeeping every day, and I also go look at my PDF form to just check the definitions to make sure that I'm also lumping things in correctly. But sometimes the definitions can be a bit vague. So with more detailed definitions on these updates, it's also good for you on hospital site level to be able to make those decisions.
Oh, that's helpful. I wonder if they used AI. Make this better.
I think, yes. And I believe it's count 6420. See, like we're so used to being able to name. It mentions it in there as well for the specialist consultation costs, because, back in the day, we're so used to sending off the radiographs and that you have a radiologist be able to interpret it. But with AI, now you have, you have a secondary source as well. So that's something that's highlighted there. And I can even admit it too, whenever we would see those expenses come through, there's a little bit of that hesitation to like, where exactly does this go? Is it something that's outside lab revenue? Is it something that can be, separate vendor costs? So being able to have that in detail also helps, once again, you at the site level to be able to make those categorizing decisions.
Just drill down even more. So if
Yes.
we're already using the chart accounts and now we've got some updates, what happened if I just ignore these updates? Can I do that?
Well, if you ignore the updates, you're setting yourself up for failure. I believe so. It's, I think using the chart of accounts is just plainly is very vital to your business, especially because it helps you benchmark with other practices, how you're doing too. So when I first and foremost, if you're not using the AAHA chart of accounts, I feel like you're doing yourself and your practice a disservice. Just put it bluntly, because you want to have that transparency and that clarity for your expenses, and also like what your profitability is for all those lines there. And with the new updates, it's only going into that much more detail in order for you to really understand. I know, for example, we have the summer months coming up. So if you really want to analyze your spend on heartworm preventatives, and also like how much exactly are oral preventatives doing versus injectables, that's another way to kind of measure it for your practices.
No, that is smart. I mean, especially since we're talking, everyone's so aware of COGS and keeping prices low, and we really want to keep things on the shelf that sell. A, B, maybe you're into things that you can't find on Chewy, right? This could be your opportunity to see if it actually is working for you. So are there any challenges with this update? Are people going to feel like a crunch, or is it going to feel like a whole new thing?
Well, if you already have an existing chart of accounts that is very similar aligned to AHA, if not, copy and pasted, it should be as easy as just adding new accounts and renaming a few. Those changes are simple, and those are some changes that we've also implemented for our bookkeeping clients here at the firm. However, if you don't have anything set up, or if you just have one that's a bit more customized, I would highly suggest that you get it aligned. The reason being too is we kind of talked about benchmarking. So we want you to be able to see where your profitability is versus some other competitors, or just some other colleagues that you might have that are practice owners as well. But it's really important to implement this. I feel like oftentimes we may also see on the bookkeeping team when we have a new client where the AHA chart of accounts is just quite vague, or it's a little bit all over the place.
Right.
That can also be a time, when we're kind of going through it, and it takes a little bit of additional work. Also, if you're a new practice starting out, I would say the best time to do it is just right from the get-go and making sure that's aligned. The reason too with that is because whenever we're doing, revenue analysis and trying to advise you appropriately on where you can have some opportunities, if it's not set out for you very specifically, once again, you're missing out on some information there. So also for clients that don't have the AHA chart of accounts updated at all, there are some services that are offered that can fix this for you overnight. So if you want some more information, go ahead and give us a call, email us, whatever you need to do. But there are services out there that can also help you make that adjustment so that your your chart of accounts can align with AHA.
There are some things that are worth paying for, and that is
Yes.
definitely one that comes from, like, please take this off my plate. So when they make the changes, where do you think they'll notice? Is this a revenue, expense, reporting, all of the above? How are they going to see these changes come through?
I would say all of the above. I feel like when you can detail the expenses appropriately and have that said in detail, it only makes it that much more of a stronger claim whenever you're able to match it up with your revenue. Because when you're looking at it from just a revenue standpoint, you just kind of see that number there. But when you're able to actually see the expense that you're putting in, it makes a difference of whether or not something is breaking even. One thing that I've noticed specifically in practice is just dietary purchases. So whenever practices are, buying, and I get it, you want to stock up on those things before it gets on back order and then you don't have any. So that's one of the things there too, is that like, I'm also seeing that like perhaps a practice may have spent some amount of money and then this is how much they're bringing in. So it's being able to identify like what's just clear cut versus, like, is it something that's actually profitable for you? Which is another change to the updates on the AHA chart of accounts, is that there is also internet dietary revenue as well. So with it changes up, like drop ship becoming more popular, but also just changing the way that we incentivize pharmaceuticals for our patients. It's just that a lot of it is being switched to online to remain competitive.
I think that would be helpful too, because I think that there's so many, especially when a new product comes out, we use vendor recommended pricing, which is not always the best for the practice, right? It's really
Yes.
good for the vendors who want to sell a lot of stuff, but not always great margins for the practice. So I think that makes it like an easier, quick and easy, like I'm buying it for this, I'm selling it for that. Is that making me happy? Is that where I want to be? So I think that that's a huge one too. Is there anything that was like lumped together before that's now broken out a little bit more?
Yes. So one of the things, as we mentioned previously, was like the heartworm prevention. Previously, it was just all kind of lumped in together. And so you had so pretty much, yes. So your heartworm preventatives were just kind of like lumped into that one here. But now with it separated, you do have that detail. And there are other updates as well to the alternative accounts that you can also see where those things were once lumped together, but now separated just for that more visibility.
If I bring anything in new, if I change some new things or I need to take something out?
So not necessarily.
Okay.
So when it comes to making, and do you mean changes like with products or
No,
just
like
like,
if I bring in a new GL code, a new line item on in QuickBooks, do I need to then delete something out?
I would stray away from deleting, just because you want to try to, as much as you can, try to preserve any data that you have. Sometimes it's as simple as being able to like merge. For example, you can sometimes like merge some historical data together or be able to separate it. But for the most part, in kind of like in this broad sense, there is that you want to try to preserve what you've had previously just to be able to track it. But overall, like all the information is still key. So it's not a one size fits all. Every practice is different. So if you have any questions about that, you can always reach out to us too.
Can a normal human merge something, or is that like a bookkeeping task? Is that something we can do on our own?
Anyone can do it, but
Okay.
the bookkeeping oversight or someone that's able to kind of look into it for you, or if you need some guidance, there are those sources as well. But it's whenever it can be complicated. Let's just say it as it is. It can be complicated as it is. And with the AHA chart of accounts, as I mentioned at the beginning, it can seem super intimidating. But it doesn't have to be that way. It's just really about being able to set the time to really look through what the definitions is, analyze everything that goes into the chart of accounts with the mindset knowing that it's there for you to be used as a component to your practice in order to, one, bring in more revenue, but also just overall help with your efficiency. So we talk a lot, Megan, about like, not treating it just as this compliance task. I think what people tend to overlook is that it's a really key part of your practice and like just how you can grow all.
It sounds a little complicated. Like I feel like the chart of accounts can already be like a little intimidating and overwhelming, and now we're adding in things. Is it really just easy peasy? Drop it in?
It can be. So, as we mentioned, like if you have something that's already existing, then it's as simple as perhaps just changing a few names and adding a few accounts. But if your chart of accounts is just kind of all over the place, it's whack, your PIM system is all over the place, then there may be a conversation of bringing someone external in to kind of help you out. Because what some people think is that a practice manager or a practice owner can just kind of do this within like probably 4 to 8 hours in the day. But the reality is that it can be a little bit overcomplicated. So you want to make sure to get it right the first time. And so that's what's really good about the updates as well, is that the definitions are also clear. So when you're doing the bookkeeping tasks, even for yourself as a practice owner, you do have a lot more visibility and clarity where things go, as were previously, they may have not been as clear.
So you think this is not overcomplicating things? This is simplified. This is breaking out further what we were already trying to lump in.
In a way, I think there is this overcomplication factor. I feel like sometimes we do that, but I think it's all meant in order for the benefit of the practice to grow. So like the updates, like, were they necessary? Yes. Were some practices functioning fine without the updates? Yes, that as well. But I feel like it's just with all the changes that are happening in veterinary medicine, we want to be able to stay up to date as much as possible. So what might seem as something that's overcomplicating, especially in the moment with any change, it's there to be able to help you and kind of guide you in the future as you start like benchmarking and then also planning for the next 6 months.
One of the things I appreciate about QuickBooks, I'm just going to assume we're all out there using QuickBooks, is that you can always kind of back out any mistakes, right? Is there anything that we could do to kind of screw this up as we're implementing new things? Is there anything that we should look out for? Me like, oh, don't push up.
I think it's just also being cognizant about what your current chart of accounts, especially if it's not a copy and paste of what AHA has listed. It's being able to understand like where you are categorizing things currently. And then as you're going through the updates, is this something that aligns with what the up-to-date definitions have? So as we kind of talked about, it's something that the new updates or the new accounts, it's as simple as just being able to add those in. But if you have accounts that are a bit more customized, which I find often is that practices will have a lot of these customized accounts where perhaps the number might not be the same as what the AAHA chart of accounts has listed. That's kind of when you get in a bit of a sticky situation, especially because you might not always be aware of everything that's going into the account. So some accounts can be a bit vague, and that's often where the mistakes can be found. When you have, I've also seen some practices have very specific accounts for very little things. One of the updates to the AAHA chart of accounts as well is third-party financing fees. So before it was just listed as care credit because they were really the main ones at that time. But there are a lot of other platforms now that are being utilized. So that's just kind of like one example. And what I've seen with some clients is that where there might be these customized accounts, for example, you can kind of consolidate them. And so that is a bit easier too. But also if you are just lumping everything in like a 6,000 account, you are missing out on some information. So that's kind of where we're heading towards industry as well, just being able to be a bit more transparent with that information so that practice owners can make a lot better informed decisions.
We better aligned. If we have industry averages, then side note, what's the silliest like custom line item that you've seen?
Oh,
You're not prepared for this question.
the silliest one. Uh, as far as like customs, I can't really speak. I think it's more of like where things are being categorized, to be quite honest with you. Sometimes because we do the bookkeeping for you here at Granite Peak if you're a full-time bookkeeping client. Although we have also assisted as well with other practices that might just need some additional training. And so I think it's just the categorizing of things. But it's okay if there are mistakes. I mean, we all kind of learn through them. But I would probably say it's just where things go. Perhaps you might see a personal expense go to something that is not quite where it needs to be. And so those I would say less about like silliest thing I've seen on the chart of accounts, more about where things are being categorized and are they being categorized appropriately.
There's always a thought process. I will say my first week I started here and somebody said, where we all went out, we took the team out for tattoos. The whole team got tattoos. Where should I line item that? And I was like, oh no, I am way out of my league on this one. We ended up getting it under employee expense, right? Yeah. So those are kind of the fun things that you can do with chart of accounts.
Exactly. And that's not a bad observation either, because like if you're looking at it, you might be thinking, is this a staff event? Is this some kind of
Entertainment
program? Yeah, benefit program access. There could be several options, and that's an important thing I wanted to also put out too. As updated as the definitions are, I mean, you may run into situations where you're not sure where this exact expense goes. However, what's most important is that you show consistency. So you put it in the same place every time. You can't put it in office supplies one month and then put it elsewhere. That way your data is just a little bit all over the place. So consistency is the biggest thing.
So year tattoos will go into employees.
Yes. So just make sure your tattoos go in the same place every time.
If you take away nothing else from today, take away that.
Yes.
Is this something like, do people need to do it, like stop what they're doing and implement it today? Can we do it in the next 6 months? I mean, how important is these updates?
Yeah, so you can definitely phase it in. I think if you're going the way of phasing it in, definitely spend the time to really look through the alternative accounts and understand what you're implementing. This can also vary by, what your current, what your accounts of QuickBooks might look like, but also what your PIMS might look like as well. So it can be a process depending on where you currently stand. My mindset though is really just to rip the Band-Aid on it. It's just,
Sure.
hire someone external, especially if you feel like, it's a very daunting task, because I understand it's intimidating. And oftentimes we tell ourselves, I'll get to this at some point. But how many times does that at some point, come months? And next thing you're looking at, it's the following year. So I always try to incentivize, yes, you might be spending some amount in order to get someone external to do it for you, but they could do it for you, overnight, end of a day, over the course of indication of a week or so. But you'll be pleased with the results that you get, because once it's completed, you really are able to get a detailed financial statement at the end of the month that really helps you and shows you the visibility, where your expenses are going and what opportunities you have. So I just say just rip the Band-Aid off of it. And, if you're able to get someone to help you out with that externally, that would be the best way to go.
Yeah, get it done. Just get it done. What are we missing if we don't do this? I mean, we kind of already touched on it, but is there anything else that's like a call to action of like, yeah, and it's not fun. This isn't what you're planning on doing with your weekend, but let's get it done.
So, as we kind of talked about the updates, I'll use that as an example as well. So we have, Perfecto Quantum, which is going to be an injectable. If you don't have that in the new account, it's going to be lumped into, a very broad account. So we're not getting the full picture. And that is with anything that's going through, these categorizing and inputs, is that if you're not getting it detailed to how the AHA chart of accounts is, recommending or has it framed for you, then you're missing out on those key informations, regardless of what account it is. You really want to be able to make sure to have those in the appropriate places.
And for anyone who's worried, it'll still be in the same section, right? So it's not like I'm losing all of my flea prevention history, right? It's still lumped into the same COGS section.
Correct. So it'll still be in that section there. It's just breaking it out for you so that when you're going through the service or going through the lines, you're able to identify it. So we have the revenue account, but we also have the expense account as well to complement that in the updates. So you're able to pick out that line, also view the other one, and then also determine whether or not it's profitable for you or not.
So important. So important, guys. We should be paying attention to these things more than just the quarterly conversations that we have. Okay. And now that we've given people plans for their weekend, right? This is exciting. They've got something to do. If you could share one nugget or one piece of advice or one thing that people should focus on when they're doing their books, what would that be?
I had mentioned it a bit earlier, but we tend to treat it as a compliance task. So the best way that I can describe this is it's kind of like you're getting that annual or quarterly training video and you're just kind of skipping through it. I feel like that's often what happens. And it's not a call out, guys. It's not a call out. I want to be able to illustrate it, very precisely for everyone. Bookkeeping is a full-time thing. So if a practice owner or a practice manager has the time to do it, then, that is great. But I know for myself, when I was in practice, you're wearing so many different hats. You're running to the front desk, you're helping someone with surgery, you're helping hold a dog or cleaning something up. So that time is just time away from the books, which is a reality of it. So you need to have appropriate time in order to really be able to understand what you're doing in terms of bookkeeping. It's not just there to kind of get through. It's set up so that you have a really good P&L at the end of the month, and you're able to budget, benchmark, and just plan appropriately for what the upcoming months have. So my final advice would be, once again, just look at it that this is a key for you, not a compliance task that you just have to get through.
I think that's really smart, especially as we get more nervous about pricing and, cost of doing business and client numbers down. Like all of these things matter, and to be able to pull the levers and know what areas need your attention, I think is huge. So I agree that I don't want to do this. This is not how I want to spend my day, but I'm so thankful for you and the team that enjoy and thrive in this and do it every day. So if people have questions, because I feel like they might, and I don't come to me because this is not area, how can people find you?
I'll have my email somewhere. Megan will get that for you all. It's also listed on our website too. So if you go on our website, we have our inbox email there. But if you have any general questions, feel free to also reach out to me. I'd be happy to help as well as the rest of the bookkeeping team.
Perfect. Well, I thank you for sharing your knowledge because it is not my knowledge. And so hopefully this is not scary, but something that we all need to do and make sure that it gets done. So I appreciate your time today, Justin. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Megan.
Appreciate it.